Good morning. You're listening to Trusting God at All Times, a daily devotion from Peakland United Methodist Church in Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm Andrew, the deacon here at Peakland. When I was in undergrad, I used to be one of the student leaders of a worship service that was student-run, student-led. And we used to use Greek terms to define pieces of worship. So we would use koinonia, which means authentic community, instead of passing the peace. We would use oikos, which meant housekeeping, to mean announcements. And we also liked to rotate what worship looked like, so it didn't look the same every time you came to church. For a small window of time, while I was an undergrad, we combined the word oikos and housekeeping with benediction, which, as you know, means good words, and is also not a Greek word. And we took those two, and we created what we called Benedoikos. What are the good words and the good things in our community that we can look forward to and we can take with us as we go forth? Now, me and several of the other students loved the idea of Benedoikos. In fact, I've already put together the liturgy for my funeral, and there is a Benedoikos in my funeral liturgy because it's something that was important to me. It was something we created that gave joy to the community. But there was one person who every week when we got to Benedoikos would call out, "It's not a word," and we'd call back, "It is a word." We almost went so far as to put it in Wikipedia so we could use a picture of the Wikipedia article as the slide during worship. This change really angered some people. They saw it as us just smashing two words from different languages together to create something that didn't exist. And so for this woman in our congregation, Benedoikos was an abomination initially. But for us, Benedoikos was something of new life, new hope. It was something that represented how we understood and experienced worship together. Eventually, this grew to the point where the woman no longer was angry by it, but would just every week exasperatedly call out, "It's not a word." It became a ritual, something that we did every week. We often talk about how people experience worship differently. In the 90s and the 2000s, we even talked about worship wars between contemporary and traditional hymns. And I didn't have this language until recently, but Pastor Joe, while he's been talking about worship with me and with the staff, has continually said, "I don't care about creating high church or low church worship. All I care about is creating good worship." Good worship isn't always going to make us feel comfortable. We're not going to like everything that happens in it. Because worship isn't just about what makes us feel good. It's about how we as a community connect with God. And sometimes that means recognizing the uncomfortability of life. So today, I encourage you to look for the things that make you uncomfortable and ask yourself, why does this make me uncomfortable? Why is this stopping me in my tracks? You might be surprised at what you learn when you ask this question. Amen.
Every Saturday morning, Pastor Joe has a special kids edition of Trusting God at All Times. It's available from 7 o'clock on, so please plan to join us on Saturdays. That's Trusting God at All Times, just for kids. And that's kids for any age. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.